What I'm going to show you today is the first modern chess game in history. Now, unfortunately, there was a chess book that was 200 years older than this game, but that chess book was lost. So technically, there might be some older chess games out there, but no one has found it so far. So this is what we know about the first game. The first recorded game comes from a poem. So what we know from the game is what we understand of in the poem. I want to explain the poem real quick because it's a little bit hard to understand. So I'm going to be reading the entire poem. So how it goes is white starts, then black starts. So white is talking in the poem, then black is talking in the poem, and then like the rule maker who sets the rules is going to like speak. So the position won't be changed. He's just gonna be talking about it. And that's how like certain rules are formed, like how you have to move when the king is in check and stuff like that. That's what it alludes to. I will now follow what the poem says. As Mars met Venus in a temple while having Mercury in their presence, he devised a game of chess with a new example, taking reason as king without preeminence, will for the queen with great potency, thoughts he deems for his bishops, his knights praises of sweet eloquence. Rooks are desires to flare up one's memories, pawns are servers striving to victory. Venus, to exercise her glory, desired for her rooks cautious reserve, for knights disdained of deserved return, her bishops glances of delightful sight, for her lady she took most pleasing beauty. Her king, following the tale of love, was honor, his life even in danger, for faithful pawns he took courtesy, all armed and clad with ostentation. Mercury, always ready in his ways, painted the board with hues clear and dark, and it made it time split into days and nights, a box to bring the first enclosures. Crossing it, he divided it into four natures of times diverse, and then, in following his guides, of each part he made four equal parts. By dividing in this mode the rest, the list adds up to 460. The fields assigned and all the men at ready. The great warrior, with his red standard, decided to move as soon as required, taking love as the name for the battle. He moved towards the field of the beautiful, the most valiant pawn in conquest. He moved 2 paces towards her. By this move, the king discovers reason and opens the road of will. The gentle lady, not lacking in spirit, carrying the green banner of hope and shouting, "Glory! Glory covers my people with all blessings." Her pawn, courteous, well tempered, moves up, because beauty opens in the game of love. The first step, with a humble gesture for defense, her heart was pierced with the thrust of love. The first rule you must abide by is, in this game, that a piece once touched firmly, admitting neither debate nor confront, by any player true, must be played. If false reason, for a lover's thoughts, having chosen, cannot freedom afford or doubt, but take full submission. Thus, the saying, courage and folly in 80 mood, as once done, done it is. Good service received with courtesy, made a new effort to accept it, becoming lord of the spot where he took it, giving no thought whether she be annoyed, because the force that led him so to love her moved him to such glory of desire, ever following love until he found her, the enterprising one, to get in his way, will not be stopped by turns or thrust. So as to let beauty's fame shine through, seeing that service delights in courtesy, with great rigor she left her house, to punish all those foolish fantasies, caring not a bit for silly nice ties, looking around as a crane scans the field. She kills the pawn, who strutted proud. One who takes action must look, to learn, to not being hit by the aims he's taken. The next law that you both must abide by is that a piece taken will remain captive, and so Will must take great care. Whom she takes, for she's a haughty dame. One who dodges the highest of hits, remains the lowest, and so will learn the game. Understanding will get this gently. If Will won't placate reason, it stands to sense that the captured be felled. Will, as it is desirous to please, as soon as it can, to the chosen lady, strives towards her in order to get his great praise with the most perfect tongue. It was a discreet person's mind to think ever to serve and not displease one who has made lady of his heart. It is a fool who dares give insult against one who is due a vassal's homage, so as to keep the homage tower. The gracious lady returns to her place. For a knight, mostly one of noble breed, should not wish to stain an honest fame. So the one in love, when inflamed by passion, should not attempt to damage the goods of honor. And if he dare do so, as she flees, his plan is broken. For when it rains, if you seek shelter under leaves, believing yourself dry, you might get wet. The third decree tells all to retreat to their castle or house of conquest, and should not want to ever again lose it. Otherwise, they ought to die with drawn sword. For will feeds such fire as brings about continued strength. A lady is one who stuns all senses, because against one's wishes you'll never conquer love, and cannot change until the wish desist. Reason, finding sharper than a knife's edge, the lady whom he most humbly loved, being left quite sad from such deception, and seeing that praises and services she disdained for the value that appealed to her, his thought that conquers with sighs, to the fourth degree he sent a spy, one who would leap for his exaltation, must first lower himself a bit. The honesty of one who wants to attract great beauty, if it will be divine, transmits disdain quite consciously, to cut off the vein of thought. For if he declines from virtue and would never limit himself, he will be undone by forbidding honor. It is nature, fire is always burning, but water will make it dance back to measure. The next decree for this our game is that kings to their third house at first shot, keeping within measure, may jump in total freedom, and so they'll show that for the high road we must at times abandon the safety of the plain. Such model is expected from them. Thus each one, as limits are trespassed, will err but slightly if attention is paid. One in love, realizing that pride and annoyance does not please the gentle lady, had to use reason to temper events, and reason was a willing and great ally. Her sweet speech that so seduces gave him with no need of fearsome sword to reach one whom the world adores. What great help, and at very little cost, the sweet sound is of composite praise. A bitter treat encased within sweet crust is a adulterer who flatters all senses, and flattering beauty approaches the deceit hiding beneath flattery. From his eyes to give her the pay of love, a sweet regard comes in place of an answer, thus healing the wound of her disdain. The eyes can look at the invisible, and the torment the dispassionate spirit. Because kings with invincible power cannot extend themselves beyond their reason, it is decreed that, by making the move possible, they can never checkmate or take, thus showing the world that in meeting punishment or revenge, they must blend mercy with wrath, and not overflow their understanding. For if they are great with their wings of potency, greater they'll be using clemency. Seeing the gaze on such fine continuance, the good desire, serving under reason, soon sent, with great reverence, his service to receive one who excites him. Affection, written upon one's eyes, awakens the heart for convenience of the lover, where true love dwells. Conformity is the most certain bet, as among lovers it feeds their friendship. As praise awakens the spirit, and plactates beauty from noble mien, with sweet regard hitting right on his heart, took praise in whom hope finds closure, and to signify that the lover never lacks, at any time, the offered end of love. If the fountain of praise is never stanch, for flatterers make the lady so happy, that discontentment appears as contentment. It was agreed that kings in whom such value sits should not jump over the others, but rather along the safe roads. They must go where the robbers won't attack, for as if they shine with our homage, leaving behind those who cannot help them. If poorly guarded, they hurt themselves and their subjects. Nature wills for members to defend the head from hurt, as that's where offense hits. With brightness compensated by great love, the eyes so lively in their gaze burned, the happy song of spirited praise, and humbly requested will's response. As they showed themselves, they gave such effort that soon took as pay and recompense the rays of the sun that penetrated the will. Stars are the eyes for mariners to navigate, who in the sea are drowning. So that the lovers may more clearly know the honesty carefully enacted by thought which lovers follow, with courteous playfulness put up a gate. By moving one pawn, one step, the enemies may spread their squadrons, seeing for them that all hope has died. Discretion courteously combs what desire foolishly muses. Another law, now numbering the eighth, that the valiant king, by retreating his person, may never, as he's bound by honor, skip so much for all the honor of his high crown, rather step by step, as it is seated, make his way back without fear or ruin, and with the gravity that crowns such princes. For a discreet flight is better than to fall prisoner because of rash concerns. But lusting after amorous fruit moves so the free will to enter the field of Venus. In his fight of a Christian he tries to disdain, mostly because it was undertaking of one who's burning in the fire of love. Great beauty, temptress of the wisest, seeing that fire has made a flame of smoke, should alert all that poison is being poured. Beauty, seeing that will is aflame, taking her courtesy against disdain, and threatening skittish fame, for defense moves with grace, and having its knight's leap, offers battle against the lady's field, who attempted to combat shame. This is a fine example that disaster never follows one who consents the scent. Another law that must be ever followed, that the king not be treated like the rest, If any move is made against him, or if besieged by danger from the enemy, you must warn him before he's hit by an arrow. So disposes in the sky that star that endowed him with the royal ermine. The name of the king sows dread on enemy's camp. He defends his faithful and bans the wicked. Now that war has broken between them, the great queen, calling the beautiful name of love, orders the return, apace and close, of a knight to her defense, and to conquer, by gathering her troops, the courtly defeat of the enemies that was badly spread on the field. If one does not counterattack at first, if he will oppose at last, will fail. Modesty is the gold on which beauty is mounted. That's why it sits near it in the castle, and abandons, seeing that the flatterer resorts to the courtly style, since he faints of dread. For honesty, unseen by all, is wounded in chaste prison, and let the flatterer into the passageway. Fear is suited to a bird in danger, as it will save from being ensnared. Given that the king has been incautiously warned, the next law says he must move or be covered. The enemy is not lacking in daring. The stain of foe might well devastate him. Prudently, then, he must stop the advancing danger, as a great lion overcome by a weasel. We see each day, much as he dons the royal toga. We are all equal in death and birth, so equal must he our fearing be. Seeing how shame moves to assert her value, to honor, courtesy, and beauty, the knight, having weighed his options and no longer restrained, enters the fray and breaks that shield which fear of dishonest failing hides behind. It being the passion the lady praises, the winner, in winning, washes his shot, for often the foe, in turning, overcomes. Beauty, when she can do no more, looks with outrage, keeping and defending her peace, and if praise moves or mingles his, beauty remains constant, unmoved, for if everything is for the nobler part, and it would seem that its disdain shoots out of its way, or so the people think, the discreet, seeing something out of proportion, says, he who burns his house must know what he's doing. Reason must be whole, not empty. Most reasonable in all for everyone. That's why in the game each player takes his turn. The one first going for what seems laudable, then the other responding to such notable task. Each a chance to fire, hope or fret, equal both in the concordant turns. Let no one think, if winning, to break this rule, for order must be kept in battle. The knight, breaking his whip, defeats shame and comes close to the honorable. Beauty so that the joy and a smile would die like the swan on a green field. If he dies happy with undignified death, the will should not open the battle, as the knight's horse has become a meek lamb. You see daily death in this sort of fencing, so that highly the pain of love. Having lost shame, which is the acme of honesty, fragrant as a lily, a strong file to break all villainous, moves outrage, burning hotter than a cauterizer, against the flatterer, giving him such matrom as to erode with torment his false bitterness, and from such sweet potion he makes a soft salve. Beauty must defend herself and be jealous, for those are prized the more they cost us. A pact is better, even if I have not said it before, that one cannot steal the power of another. Thus each must his weight calculate with its tear. Do not step beyond your rightful place, Rather play just, so your eye does not fault. The one it looks at, a great race is planned. If you would exchange your knight for a rook, a priest should shun all pomp, and so should the knight, anything against his honor. Having broken up the squadron, on the way to victory, the winner renews his efforts, with shouts and the blare of valiant horn. These increase their courage and their strength. Will, seeing beauty, sail against the wind, gives her the present, so as not to stop the game of a new service, to reinforce their friendship. The game of love must be played adroitly. One who would force a victory will only find defeat. The queen, seeing that Will so badly accompanies the service it left, dispatched a great disdain, with strange foresight, to do outrage to the trap she perceived, mostly as she thought and saw to shew the disdain, the other company of the thought or will she had made. When an enemy feigns being abandoned, you must flee, for craft with craft is made. Adding a smart edict, it is ordered that the pawn, should it play against pawn, must do battle body against body, otherwise he cannot go further. But if he stands with a heavy lance, ahead it goes as the other one quits, and let it take effort to be carried to better port. Knights are reigned back by honor, but villains stopped only by force. Thoughts that scold and mutter, as they see Will's desire and works importuning honesty, they plot, so as not to remain disfavored and needy. These are the masters and apprentices, to end all contrary ills. They are the sconce of the light of love. One who in hurriedness would hunt, will take nothing, and surely fall and shame himself. Outraged gesture, seeing that thought threatens, honestly forcing the strong to rise, delivers and is ready to die in the fray, before an evil thought is conceived of honor, stating that whenever a sinful crime is done, it should not remove it one bit, since truth reveals it from guilt. The saying goes, he who banishes a hale finger, being not ill, can healthily unbandage it. Another ancient rule must be observed, that king may never another king combat, but rather each must remain near his men, because heads must never debate, for others are hitting and defending in their good order. The king must quietly command his host to overcome his foes. A servile act, unworthy of royal pride, is like two rams locking their horns. Will, seeing that so many times cruel disdain cruelly lies its follow, in order to put a stop to its charges, disdainfully condemns and banishes it, while honor can celebrate shortly and confronting it, with a need for truce, to one has so besieged her. One who thirsts for an ending must seek help by word, deed, thunder, lightning, and rain. The royal authority must never move unless the situation is grave and necessary. Thus honor decides to enclose, disdaining the adversary's thrust. Of such service this is pay, for a courtly style could flourish. In such fortune and turn quite against him. In such dire straits, courtesy stops, gravity and pomp in its hurried flight. If assailed by a reverse of fortune is the king and all his power, with him we want, by clear law, to see him die in sorrow, as no clearing is expected for the royal crown and command, presupposes excess of freedom, and, Should he lose it, all hope is also lost. Dignity is bonded to the soul, and honor always outlives life. So that ever beauty may be served, goodwill, mindless of outrage, commands with infinite love the passage of his service, who is graceful page, and he, allowing all advantage, with humble mien invites courtesy to take his life as taxation. It is humility that will lighten, purge, and placate two hearts together, even if quite diverse in nature. Courtesy has but a limp purse, will never turn away a gift, or, if it did rebuff, his heart will ever pine, for appetite, which is dry, and thirst for rain. And so, as soon as taken, it won't budge, and make a castle out of a wee shack. But when it fails, he rues it more sternly. One who takes must think of a refund, for forcing ease will be forced to compensate. Lacking the king people to defend him, as his vassals have protected him so badly, he must then, as a fortune declares, remain alone, as his people have all been taken. A king without men cannot be thought a king, but virtue will recommence with comfort the cruel fate that has been pressed on him. In evil and in good must ever fortune, by sharing by king and men and all. In order to adjust all his efforts in one, will put its thought before reason, not caring a bit if something is lost, like services or anything else, leaving the words and relying on the gloss. It will serve that time just once, whom honor has taken as spouse. If a goodwill paints an image, it will never be undone by neither life nor death. The lady says, as her distinct voice sinks, be vigilant, honor, as she sees that the guard is kept by the eyes reading the red ink of love. They keep alert, for the hour seems late. In such a way, and with such vigilance, is guarded great beauty, girding itself with such sash, that her repute may be assured. This combat is won in such way, that the victor flees and the loser waits. Another corroborating decree advises that should the king have no place to retreat, or anyone to cover him, as his enemy prospers to the point that he might be fatally wounded, as he dies, he'll give his body as payment, and his people will fall, bannerless, into servitude if he flatter his own life in the perils of the bitter battle. More is saved by the eye than covered by the shield. Seeing beauty shield herself so strongly, provocation, as it moves the appetite, causes desire to free itself and come out, to take the place of will. He's prodded by wanting, but delight is his final cause, and if the end's delayed, his ardor may seize and take pause. All movement moves with some defeat until arriving to its desired goal. As desire begins in his effect, let him come to the spot where will used to be free, because a straight way could lead to where beauty guides, and beauty with light grace entered the third level of the delightful aspect of honor, which always involves danger. Beauty must cover itself with virtue if it will find worship in the world. But our game would now adorn itself with a new and a strange style for one who'd look, taking the orb, spectre, and throne, where mostly the queen requests her honor. Since it is said that she is worthier and stronger, she can quite well stroll the whole field, but cannot bend by neither fear nor wrath. The haughtier you see your freedom, more should you be aware of not having it be captured. Seeing that the queen is not flinching, the good desire of courteous acts, inflamed with such vivid ardor, that the greenest forests might burn without truce, for hope delivers him from toil, a delight to revive one's forces, and making will the hair to final ugliness. The fire of love for green wood, if it is dry, the more it burns, the more it sours. Beauty carrying effort as a standard in order to punish the deceitful services. Moved to the front of disdainful disdain, she loses a greedy gain of honor for the combats of love. If graceful, shoots their wires, and what rock will not give in to delightful acts? Better a no from a chaste one than a yes coming from a vicious one. If the ancients, to increase their broad, with no regard to law or justice, from lowly blood and ordinary paste, strive to create 1,000 queens of malice, and the laws of amorious malice say that the diamond more lawfully can be mounted and shine with great clarity. The faithful lover falls but for one, the ungrateful infidel does adore the idols. Will, honoring the sweet eyes and delicate gaze, as it looks more quickly, its thought surmounts and remembers, by the right of those in whom living love sparkles, by ardor that takes and leaves. It dissipates liquor from his soften his heart, with the reports tumbling within his head. Love is one that engages through the eyes, but if it constrains, the part and the whole are menaced. Thought, always pursuing sweet regard, seeing itself to attack first, was taken and killed, so it cannot bring any more damage, nor turn his will totally blind. For one who tries so hard, besieged by anxiety, to the point of bottling up the goods of honor, and drowning his spirits right in front. Honor will live as will allow. Only this will bring good and bad. Since our style transports all power from loving kings to beloved queens, just as between kings it is not licit to strike, so will the queens behave. Still, they may be battled against by others, and taken, should they lack an escort. This is their only limitation, and for this reason the law of our school says that the queen should never be alone. Good value finds no discomfort from thought spent in such an article, but with an effort from desire, it chooses and fights against disdain. The support of honesty and disdain raises its voice clear, then barrel, and now frets and trebles, seeing pleasure within its own episcule. Perfection takes form from its end, and thus the love of good gains shape. Honesty, with such words, forms its great clamor, shouting, O lofty Venus, since your virtue cannot reform mine, and your help fails me at this juncture, my poor value loses its shine, seeing that yours does not conform against itself with mine. My virtue as it flees leaps out. If such frights are not good for kings, they are still natural and sustain its being. Mercury says that now, as the queens comprehend so, as they can all and command all, if by misfortune their enemies take them, their enemies retreat and flatten. Therefore, they should be guarded, lest they be deceived, because by fear they cannot defend themselves, or just with their own effort they'll neither thread nor unthread. Shame and fear are virtues in the lady, as they are prevention one, and contrary to great fame. Mars, the prince inflaming our hearts, so as to triumph in such high conquest, took honor that claims to be above all things, and offered it quickly to good value. And this, climbing to the degree offered by the beautiful flower, amorous flame, sacrifices a fruit of love with great fanfare. In the moon lies the point of this eclipse, and to understand it is to understand the apocalypse. Guys, I just want to say, if you stayed all the way through, you guys are a real one. I ain't gonna lie, when I started reading that poem, I thought it was a lot shorter than it was. And by the time I noticed it was really long, I was already halfway done, so I had to commit myself to it. So if you walked all the way through, you guys are a real one. Leave a like and subscribe. This was the first recorded chess game in history that we know of, like modern chess that we know of, because the other chess games, that chess book that I mentioned earlier, was lost. So this was the very first game, and this poem is what we know about it. And so I read the entire thing to you guys, so you guys know entirely firsthand experience what happened. This was translated from another language though, so the translations might be a little bit off. But thank you guys for watching this video. Like, subscribe, leave a comment if you learn anything, and I will see you guys in the next one.